the kinds of things I was going to ask about in my next question, which were because you've said in past interviews that a talented programmer is looking for meaning in their day to day. That highly paid engineers still just complain about their jobs. It's funny to me to think that like somebody who gets $100 million signing bonus at Meta is then just like, oh man.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that happens. When
Yeah.
it's I don't know where the stat is at today, but when I was doing my PhD something like 15 years ago, I attended a lecture on the economics of happiness,
Hmm.
just for fun. I just went to this lecture, and at that time, it was showing that in the U.S., if a household was making over something like 80,000 or 100,000 US dollars a year, that is the happiest you can be. Making more money beyond that point didn't make people happier. Now with inflation, the numbers are probably little bit
Hmm.
higher, but directionally, I think this kind of gives the idea that you're explaining, which is that beyond having your basic needs taken care of and knowing that you have security for you and your loved ones, the extra money beyond that could end up being a hassle. you
Yeah,
know
it is. It is, and it's also interesting, right? I mean, there are studies on developer productivity, right? This is, and you would see that the numbers are insane. I mean, people talk about how an engineer, a software engineer, is productive maybe 4 hours a day or 3 hours a day, and the rest of the time is spent in meeting, planning, or whatever it is, right? Now, I feel that even if you take 2 hours for meeting, you still are leaving a lot of this time out. And if you think about it, what better privilege can someone have than to sit in a usually a great office on a laptop without having to move? Moving is optional, right? And then get paid top dollar for it. And most engineers then leave their jobs. It's not just, people leave Accelerator, but people leave all sorts of companies. And there has to be a reason for it, is that most people would be happy because knowledge work is something, which has to do with creativity. It's hard to sit in one place and realize that the work which was presented to you or asked of you could be done maybe in 2 hours, and then you got to sit and find something to do. And it's good for a few days and you spend some time, but after a while you start getting this feeling that, hey, what am I doing? I'm supposed to do something better. Let me find a mission which resonates with me and my work and my philosophy of it. And so I think making sure that no matter what the business environment you're in as an executive, the the engineers or the R&D teams believe that fundamentally we are in the business of innovation in this field. And there are very few fields, whether it's something data management, even something as boring as say enterprise content management. I'm sure that there is innovation that could be done, new ways of doing things, and people should believe that they have the freedom to do it, and they're not just dictated by quarterly plans. And this, I think, if we can provide an environment like that, then new ideas come in. And for us, it's worked out because for a company of our age and size, we have a lot of, let's say, capability that we have built over the years. Right? Whether it's to do with ODP, ADOC, we have a pulse monitoring system, we have ADM. We are working on the next version of our platform, which will be released in May. And so that is what allows us to do it, is where people believe that, hey, in this field of what the company has chosen, data management, there is innovation that can be driven through pure engineering work. And that's what drives people.
Nice. I like that. How do you say in an interview, do you think you have a way of telling whether somebody's going to be passionate about a technical infrastructure heavy mission like data management at Acceldata versus somebody who's just coming to collect a paycheck?
I think it's easy to tell in some sense. Of course, we have made mistakes there as well, like everybody else. But I feel once you start talking to people, the and this is what I felt. I mean, I've always felt that management in the technical field can only be done by people who have been in the trenches to some sense. And um, I'm sure there are models everywhere else, and which are different. And people have seen managers who work extremely well without actually being on the field. And so the number one thing, at least when I look for potential hires, is to see if they can build things, right? And it doesn't have to be working on some data problem, right? The question is, can you build? If you are given a problem, right? And it could be any problem. It could be something like, hey, how do you design, um, um, let's say, a e-commerce warehouse, right? How do you design a logistics system, right? Or any other business problem, and then can you translate it to something which you have learned, right? How you probably know, Go or Python or Java. Can you put something together which represents a real world problem? I think if you can, then those are the people who bring the most value, who can actually look at like a business problem and then convert it down to what they know. And that's what technologists are good at. Of course, this is for slightly senior people. I think for people who are just coming out of college, it's purely based on potential. Saying, hey, some of it is your scores and your background, and some of it, hey, how interested are you into doing this? And then you take a bet, and maybe after a few months you decide. But for most senior people, I would recommend checking if they can build things.